I wrote an article earlier this week, the Monday tip-off. Oddly enough, comes out every Monday to tip off the week of basketball gaming at the NLSC. And this week's topic, I sent it through to you guys, you and Ben earlier this week, and to you again this evening. The Monday tip-off: should NBA Live 18 be more traditional? And basically, yeah, suggesting that Live 18 take, and traditional sounds like a buzzword in this case, but basically I mean looking at that offline experience, not abandoning the online experience, because Live Pro-Am is a great concept, but bringing back some of that old, not old school, but it's hard to explain, but the offline experiences like your franchise and your career modes and everything, and focusing on that and kind of taking a traditional old school approach in some ways with the new approach and new technology. And there's a line that I think I cut out of the article, but it was kind of like basketball gaming the way you remembered it, only better. But basically, anywhere that 2K has kind of gone in a direction that perhaps gamers haven't really liked, especially gamers like us who are perhaps more traditional offline gamers, that's a market that Live could really capitalize on and cater to if they, they can still do the online thing, absolutely, and they should, but really sort of bring people back and say, hey, you want a really great sim experience with Dynasty and Rising Star and everything, here you go. That could be a way that Live could really re-establish themselves and win back some of the fans.
I think so. I've been thinking about this a lot, actually, and originally I thought that Live needs to focus on Pro-Am because I thought that was a great hook for the company, and I played the mode and I saw great potential in it, but now I'm kind of in another train of thought and thinking that it should go in a more traditional way, because currently 2K is in that esports spot with Pro-Am and all the competitiveness and whatnot. And I think that in order for Live to kind of compete and potentially be a game that people will buy to coexist with 2K, they need to offer something that 2K, I guess, is straying away from, and that would be the offline franchise modes and stuff like that, and put more of an emphasis on those, because that was really the lifeblood of NBA Live for pretty much the entire 2000s. Yeah. And I think, they definitely need to go back to that. And I'll let you talk for a bit because I had another point, but I can't think of it at the moment.
Not to worry. No, I mean, you and I can both attest to how much we've enjoyed Dynasty over the years. And, and then Association, of course, My League, My GM, etc. And you can see all the stuff that 2K has done with My GM, My League. And that's kind of the template of what Live needs to do. I think getting a lot of that stuff into the game, the customization, the sandbox features, the depth of those modes. Because Dynasty is okay in the last few Live games, but it's not even as deep as it was pre-reboot, like to NBA Live 10. So it definitely needs to have some more depth. Rising Star as well. And I think this is a case, I mean, there's obviously, FIFA has done the storyline in there, so I wouldn't be surprised if Live kind of adopts that a little bit in Rising Star as well. But I think they do well to avoid it and simply have like a deep mode similar to what my career was before the story-driven approach came in, like up to 2K14 last gen, where and I actually reflected on my NBA 2K13 my career in this week's Way Back Wednesday, and as I said there, the fact that I was drafted by the Nuggets at the 20th pick after a so-so showing at the rookie showcase, and then I kind of worked my way into the lineup, and then Ty Lawson went down with an injury, and suddenly, even though I was a shooting guard, I was thrust into the starting point guard role, and then developed into this playmaker, and that's why I've been a point guard in subsequent games, because I really enjoyed that experience. And combined with the cutscenes, what cutscenes were they? Oh, the interview cutscenes, the press conference cutscenes, where you could choose which kind of answer you have, and that determines your character and your chemistry and everything. That was pretty much all the story I needed, because it told the story through gameplay and the occasional press conference cutscene and a bit of the flavor content, like getting having the GM meetings and having the virtual Twitter and what else, and I guess some of the billboards and things like that. That kind of told the story, and you were able to. And I guess maybe it's just because you and I have always done the story threads, so we're kind of old school in that respect as well. But I think Live could have great success going old school like that, going back to basics, as I said at the end of the article, and and appealing to people who feel a bit disenfranchised with some of the changes in direction of 2K.
Definitely. And I think I've got a very kind of, I guess, very basic understanding of all this, but as far as I'm concerned, if you put like resources into, say, a story for NBA Live, those are resources that are being taken away from somewhere else. So if they say do go for a very minimalistic approach, like we're kind of suggesting, they can put those extra resources in places that really need them, I suppose. So
No, that makes sense. I mean, obviously,
yeah,
different developers, different engineers working on different parts of the game, but it's all things that have to come together and be finalized by by the time the game goes gold. So no, I think that definitely makes sense. And in this case, minimalist doesn't necessarily have to mean shallow. You can have a very deep mode. Like my career up till 2K14 last gen, still a very deep mode.
yeah,
I mean, 2K17 had a really good approach, I thought, to my career. The best it's been since they went the story-driven approach, where you had the cutscenes, but mostly it is told through the gameplay and the connections. Get you some VC, or they get you perks and bonuses here and there. So I think they had a good approach. Strip out all the storyline stuff, and I think you've got a pretty good template that Live could follow for that. And the fact that Live and Pro-Am, Live Pro-Am and Rising Star, they're connected, but they're also separate in so much as you can upgrade the player in one mode and not the other if you don't want to play the other mode. I think that's a really good approach as well, having them connected but separate, if that makes sense. That was another thing I touched on in the article. And also limiting microtransactions. I mean, that's the other thing, is that people really hate microtransactions, and as much as we've both indulged in it, regrettably, sometimes, I guess.
definitely regrettably.
And Live only has microtransactions in Ultimate Team, and of course you don't have to buy cards, much like my team. You can earn them through challenges and whatnot. So if they limit the microtransactions, that's also saying, hey, that's kind of an old school approach as well. You can buy it, but if you don't want to spend any money, you can go the old school route and just earn everything in game, even with the online stuff, which is not totally old school, but yeah, I think it could really work for Live's advantage. I mean, they need to do other stuff with the gameplay and the game modes and everything, but simply having that, for lack of a better word, traditional approach, I think would show a lot of goodwill and could be an alternative to something that 2K is perhaps moving away from, arguably.
I really admire that that system for microtransactions as well, because Ultimate Team and my team are like two modes that really lend themselves to microtransactions, in the sense that you are buying card packs, and you need to use money to buy those card packs in some cases. And by doing that, by making microtransactions only in that mode, you're also ensuring that people who are playing online are only updating their player by doing the most amount of grinding in like the either online mode or in the career mode. So
absolutely,
I'm very much for that system, because it doesn't inflate that person's abilities too early on. Like, it doesn't give them a 95 overall rating when they're really probably only a 75 skill wise, like as far as like an MBA, as far as like a gamer is concerned. So yeah, I hope NBA Live sticks to that that system, because I do think that it is one of the areas that they have an advantage in.
And 2K17, to its credit, did take a good approach by capping that initial microtransactions at 88 overall. And to get to 95, you had to grind through the season. It really was a grind. I didn't get to 95 till very late in the first season, playing 12-minute quarters. But I do like Live's approach. As you said, you can't pay to win. You've got to put in the hard yards. You've got to grind your way up. And Live starts you at about 72, 70 to 74. So it's not as bad as 2K's 55 is probably having to grind up from. So, and of course you have the separate currencies, RP for the reward points for the clothes and gear, and the skill points for the ratings upgrades, and it skips you up a few points at a time in each category as well, a few rating points. So Live system is actually quite fair, and again, that's kind of old school, that approach. So it's another one, old school, traditional, use those terms interchangeably, I guess. But it's it is that approach that is very fair to gamers, and it's not based around microtransactions. And yeah, it could. I mean, EA has probably burned its bridges with a lot of gamers, understandably so, with some of its business practices or simply letting people down with the releases. But on top of winning people back with the solid product, which it absolutely needs to be, having a showing the goodwill and having a great approach to the way they're designing the game for the hardcore basketball gamers, it goes a long way, and I think it really could benefit them.
Absolutely. And I think a big part of EA's resurgence as far as like the basketball market is concerned is that they need to, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but a good percentage is definitely gameplay, but another one is how they manage their community, because that is a big part of, when you're dealing with any game really, because there are so many games that are not purely online, but like there's a good chunk of them that is online. And, 2K is definitely one of those games where if you're not online, then it's very limited. So, community management is definitely a big part of any strategy for gaming companies.
So no tweeting about Barbie games, basically?
Probably not the best idea, no.